Kia ora, good evening and welcome to 0800 Tardis Live. So coming up tonight, we'll be talking about the first episode of Doctor Who. The guest of who is the Master. That's a little bit of a spoiler. And also what's changed over the last 20 years as a bit of a roundup. So let's roll on to the first episode of 0800 Tardis Live for 2020! And kia ora, good evening and welcome to the our first episode of 0800 Tardis Live here from Wellington. And I don't know if you've already watched the first Doctor Who episode, Spyfall Part 1, but I hope you definitely have, with a few bit of surprises. But should we sit down there and start kicking off the first part of the night? Now just remember, today is January 2nd, 2020, broadcasting from New Zealand, or it's also known as the 1st of January if you're one of our United States fans. Now, there's something I like to sit there and talk about. You know, back in 2000, it's been 20 years since that. I was 9 years old, and there's some things I definitely would like to sit down there and look at if we can sit there and do here. Back in 2000, Helen Clark was the Prime Minister of New Zealand. UK Prime Minister was Tony Blair, and the US President was it Bill Clinton? Oh, and just for the news, Doctors Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann were alive. There hasn't even been a position casted for, was it the 10th Doctor for Doctor Who? Billy Piper's song, Honey to the Bees, received 2 platinum certifications in New Zealand, something I didn't know until earlier today. Freema Ackerman hadn't even started acting professionally, nor had her 21st birthday. The 8th Doctor's adventure was its 30th book, which only had been halfway through the release. I'm trying to think, what was the title? It was Parallel 59. So doing that. Oh, and the broadcast home for New Zealand shifted for Doctor Who shifted from TVNZ to Prime. And also, fast forward to 2010, this day in 2010, Matt Smith was the freshly minted Doctor. However, yes, that looks a lot better. I did see we had a bit of a jump to Jacinda. And if we go today, I better let you know, just before we go to today, Helen Clark, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, she was also the MP for Mount Albert. Just thought I'd sit you there. Because now we also have current New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in 2020. Yes, I know, 20 years time, we still have a female. Also, Jacinda is a proud MP servicing the people of Mount Albert. Same place as Helen Clark. UK Prime Minister is Boris Johnson. And yeah, you can definitely, yeah. And was it US President is Donald Trump.
They are human zits.
Now shut up in the cheap seats. And here's the best part is, and the living living actors and actresses who played the Doctor in Doctor Who, we've got Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and the current Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. Oh, and add to more to that, David Tennant has married Peter Davison's daughter, Georgia Moffat, who I think goes by the stage name of Georgia Tennant. Also on other news, TVNZ has regained the broadcasting rights to Doctor Who again. Doctor Who made a 50th anniversary episode. The Master has been played by 8 male actors and 1 female actress. The Doctor has been played by 13 male actors and 1 female actress. Over the last 20 years, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, and Peter Capaldi have visited New Zealand. If I've missed someone in there, I would love to know if Matt Smith, David Tennant, and Christopher Eccleston have been here. I would love to sit there and know that in the last 20 years. And also, the best part ever, we at 0800 Tardis have interviewed many companions, villains, and monsters of Doctor Who since we became a Facebook page in 2012. And the one part I have to sit there and say, you noticed none of the Doctors, well, with the exception of John Hurt, I'm sorry to hear about that, are still alive and kicking today. Amazing how you sit there and look at it. For the Doctors who played in classic Doctor Who, no one has died since 1996 with John Pertwee. So it is some very, very scary news. So I hope that bit of a history lesson was a bit interesting on the facts of what's happened there. So we can sit down there and cross out to the, was it Spyfall? So what did you think of the first episode? I have to admit, it was a bit interesting. Now, spoiler alert, we have to always sit there and say that. We have a new master. The master is back being a man. Played by Sacha Darwin.
Sacha Dhawan.
Dhawan, is that how you say it? Guess.
I'm a History Boys fan, so I am always...
Maybe you should just get here already and present the show, Carrick, since you're already halfway there.
Gosh.
This is what happens when I guess Carrick has already, stepping in yet. So, those are definitely the changes that have come out of here. And thank you TVNZ for broadcasting Doctor Who on TVNZ on demand straight away. And also, if you're watching this live stream now, you'll probably also notice that it's actually also playing on Channel 2 as we speak. We were making a decision whether to delay it tonight and not. We've stuck with our original time frame of doing it. So that's what we're going to do. Now I'd like to sit down there and get to our first guest here, Carrick. Please make your way to your guest seat. Since you know, it's about time for us to know Carrick Nisbit, the big Doctor Who fan with all the audios. Welcome back for 2020.
Hello. So, since we're talking about the expanded universe, I was just kind of chuckling to myself when you were listing off all the various actors who've played the Doctor and the Master. It's like, oh boy, you're leaving out so many. Like, for starters, there's like the recast old Doctors, like, so for that you've got David Bradley, you've got, what's it in the Five Doctors?
Richard Handel.
Yeah, him. And also on audios you've got,
Fraser Hines.
as the second Doctor.
Yeah.
Also, David Brad, also not, oh, I don't think it really counts when it's like his old companion actors doing it. Because like, Peter Purvis is playing the first Doctor, and so is William Russell, and so is David Bradley. They've got so many first Doctors on audio. Also, what's his face? Like, Tim something. Like, why have I forgotten his name? Who's like now playing the third Doctor on opposite Katie Manning. And we just know that when Tom Baker dies, they're going to recast him with John Coleshaw. They've already recast they've already recast the Brigadier with John Coleshaw. In the future, everyone will be John Coleshaw.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was impersonating the Doctor back when he had his radio show, Dead Ringers.
Yeah, and there's the alternate universe Doctors, like the evil David Collins one. The should we count Michael Jaston? I feel like we should count.
Why
I feel
not?
like we should count Michael Jaston. Oh, that means we might also have to count Toby Jones as the Dream Lord, and also what's his name? Jeffrey Belden as the one from Old Mortality. Arabella Weir, who was actually the Doctor before Jodie Whittaker, kind of, but that one wasn't very good. Should we also count the Curse of Fatal Death Doctors while we're here?
Well, why not? Why not? I mean, if we go by that factor,
Oh,
Joanna Lumley was the first female to play the Doctor.
And then there's the David Warner one, who actually crossed over into the main continuity recently. He's yet to meet any of the main universe Doctors, but he's like hanging out with one of their companions. It's very weird. We should probably actually talk about Spyfall.
Yeah. So you've watched the episode so far?
Yes. Okay, first off, I'm kind of optimistic. There was a general sense last season that Chris Chibnall was playing it safe. And while this did result in some really good episodes like Punjab and The Witchfinders is my trash, I think as a whole the season felt kind of unsatisfying as a result. Like, it wasn't bad, just kind of meh. This one though, it feels like he's actually starting to have fun. Like, I think his weaknesses as a showrunner are still there, but like there was actually like a palpable sense of just joy to this one going in, which kind of wasn't there last season. Like, just like, screw it, we're doing a Bond pastiche. Fuck you all. Okay, that's I admire this energy. It's not the first time Doctor Who's done Bond pastiche. It is the first time on TV, but like, there was an 8th Doctor book, Trading Futures, which I am sad to say I have not read. Also, more recently, like just earlier this year, there was, I think it was like The Forbidden Island, something like that, by Jonathan Barnes, which had, of all actors, Renly from Game of Thrones playing a guy who swallowed this like fantasy make reality gas, and so it turned him into a James Bond parody. And he starts narrating what's happening, like it's his own internal monologue in a James Bond book. Like, he's following the Doctor's companion, and he's saying, "And sir, as I saw this dashing young lady, she struck me as a sort who could look after herself, but I did wonder if she might want to ask for help," something like that. And she just turns on and goes, "Can you stop doing that?" It's very meta, and it's honestly, it's amazing. But, yeah, to move on from that, I kind of admire the energy of casting Stephen Fry as your MXB, and then just like killing him
also the head
immediately.
of is it MI5?
MI6.
Oh, MI6.
They
okay.
can tell because they have different buildings. Like the MI6 one is like that tank one, which gets an establishing shot. MI5 has Tim's house, which did play a vital role in Torchwood Children of Earth.
Yes.
Which is one of the best things ever, and you should all watch it.
Yeah, well, definitely. Oh, and you've got Peter Capaldi in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Playing the second best Doctor Who character to be called Frobisher. The best is the shape-shifting penguin companion from the comics. That was a thing. It was amazing. So yeah, in this one you've got MI6, which yeah, we're going all out with the Bond stuff and like the letter initial names and everything. I'm sad we didn't really get a QXB. I kind of got the impression that like they had Stephen Fry for a day. Like, yep, that's a wrap, kill him, we're done.
Yeah.
But I was more impressed by Lenny Henry, I felt. Mostly because it seemed more like we had him for more than like an afternoon. I mean, this is the second best Doctor Who Lenny Henry performance I've seen. The best, of course, was when he played the Doctor. Like, no, really, I believe it was like when he faces the evil villainess known as Thatchos.
Now that's the one where
It's a Cyberman in a wig.
Yes, to employ Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I remember that one, and including the Tardis got well cleaned. Yeah.
Again. Although,
Again.
I will say with this, with Lenny Henry in this, as I'm perhaps less familiar with his comic work outside of that and his reading of Neil Gaiman's Anansi Boys. But I got the impression that I was going to cast a comic actor in a serious role. And, you know, it pays off. Like, comedy is actually harder than drama, so comedic actors tend to be quite good at drama, so, like, hey, look at Catherine Tate. It's like, I did like the fact he was basically playing evil Google. But only it's called Vor, because not only are we Google, but even more evil than Google is, and Google is pretty evil, we're even called Vor, just so you know how evil that we are. Also, it kind of like alludes to like the actual real life evils of Google when like Yasmin has that whole like tangent when she's asking him about like, hey, you know your end is kind of becoming a hub for like bigotry and like targeted harassment. He like brushes it off. It's like, no, we mustn't. It's like, well, this is uncomfortably realistic. I don't think this guy needs to be working with like whoever the fuck the light bulb guys in this were. Like it seems to me he's screwing the world up enough.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to ask is the Master working for MI6.
First off, the Master doing this kind of long-term planning, I can totally see it.
Well, I mean, he did. He did it when he was the Johnson's version of the Master. Did try to become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Yes, and then there was the time he pretended to be a scarecrow for God knows how long a stretch of time in Mark of the Rani for reasons which are unfathomable to me.
Oh, see, I haven't seen it.
And then there was a pretty recent, the Derek Jacobi Master, who wasn't on TV much, but he's been enjoying a bit of a renaissance on audio. He kind of like has a thing as the planner master, like he'll lurk away in a setting for years waiting for things to unfold. Most recently they got one where he went back in time and killed Davros and created the Daleks himself. And so they had them all working for him. And it's like this like takes actual centuries.
Wasn't there, I'm trying to think, was it? It's it was before the Planet of the Daleks ones. I think it was the one where the last one was the Daleks appeared right at the end of the episode. I'm just trying to remember which one. It's one of the space ones. But it was one where Roger was still playing the Master.
Frontier in Space?
If that's a John Pertwee story.
Yes, the one with like the war between the humans and the Draconians.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. That was, I remember that, and right at the end of it had the Daleks come in there or something. But yeah, it was trying to, I remember the Master was trying to play off he was a police officer.
He was an adjudicator. No, that was in Colony in Space. Well, wait, he was also pretending to be a cop, but that he disguises himself a lot.
Oh, he pretended to be all sorts of people. I mean, what's the Master next going to
I don't know. The Master doesn't do it that much like in New Who. Like, there was the whole, like, Prime Minister spiel. I think the only time the Master's really gone full on with the disguise, it was, like, in that moment in World Enough and Time where it's, like, the build-up to John Sim.
Yeah.
Acting, like, do you like disguises?
Yeah. Now,
speaking of John Sim and that episode, we're going to have to address the elephant in the room.
Missy.
Had an arc. Your mileage may vary on whether or not you liked it. I personally love it. She is probably my favourite incarnation of the Master.
She pulled it off brilliantly. That's
like,
the thing I like
about it. It is one of the best performances in the history of ever. And that arc in season 10, it's like that slow build up to like a hope at redemption. I love it so much. Now, if they had just left it there, I wouldn't have minded. And like, I thought it was unlikely because like this is the Master we're talking about. We're always going to bring them back at some point. But my general feeling was that if we must bring the Master back, and I'm not really averse to this, and if I was going to do it, Sacha Dhawan is definitely one of the group of... if I was going to bring him back as a guy, it's like that is one of the actors I would have doing it. Others include, Robert Sheehan or Dev Patel. But you have to build on the arcs that kind of came before. The Master, as she ended in The Doctor Falls, is not the Master that we see in this story.
No, so there's a missing point there.
So
However,
there's a few ways this can go. Either it's a Master from before Missy, like maybe between her and John Sim, or like between like Derek Jacobi and Alex McQueen or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's the point actually.
Like,
yeah, because
that's one option. Or maybe he's like from another universe, like the Mark Gatiss one from the Unbound audios. Hell, given that there's like a hint at alternate worlds in this story, and the Master's whole everything you believe is a lie. It's like maybe that's what they're setting up. But if this is the Master after Missy, I think I'm gonna be pissed off because, like, there is the Master just like back to acting like the standard. It was me. It was the Master the whole time. I am evil. It's reductive. Like so some of like the defenses of like say this decision I have seen range from the Master was always coming back in like the classic series, and it's like that. I think independent missing the problem there, and then it's like, well, like the Master should be a villain, but it's like you can't just ignore a character arc. Like, that's not good storytelling. You could kind of get away with that, like, back in the day, because, like, the Master as a character didn't change much over the course of the series.
No. See, Michelle Gomez really put a new twist to the Master.
Yeah.
And it put more of like, I'm Missy. Well, I can't do it. I could call myself Master.
It was not. I don't just mean like being a woman or
Yeah.
like the flightiness. Like that had all like been there before in different incarnations. It was more like her kind of almost weariness with being what she was
Yeah.
that led to like the Doctor prompting her redemption arc. It's like you have to follow on from that, or else it's just going to feel like bad storytelling.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
the Doctor and the Master, just because like the Master's no longer necessarily evil doesn't mean you can't have drama there. There's still going to be a lot of conflict. Like with the Master's history, they're going to have a very different way of say going about things. Like they would like turn the Doctor Master more into like extremely uneasy allies and necessarily enemies. And I feel like that's a way more interesting dynamic than just the Master's back, they're evil, because we have done this before. We have done it so many times. We don't need more of it. And like, I'm willing to hold off judgment until part 2, until we actually see more of what's going on with this incarnation. Okay, but if it does turn up, yup, we're just ignoring season 10 now, that's gonna be pretty infuriating, because if I may compare it to a recent phenomenon, The Rise of Skywalker, a movie which, whatever you say, I know feels like it was written by people who kind of hated the 2 movies that came before it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like the dropping of like themes and like arcs and things. It's like it's a kind of fundamentally different approach to storytelling. It's conservative, and I don't mean that in the political sense. I just mean it purely in like the storytelling sense. Rian Johnson and Stephen Moffat, say whatever you will about them as creators, they are fairly liberal storytellers. They like to take existing narratives and try and subvert them, to play about with them, to try and come up with new things, to advance. Whether or not they always succeed is a question I'm not going to bother addressing. Personally, I think Rian does it well, and I think Moffat is a bit more of a mixed bag, but I'm overall more positive to him than I think a lot of people are. Chris Chibnall and also J.J. Abrams, I get the impression they're more conservative storytellers, which is why I feel like it's dragging the Master back into like old cliches. It's like, because like this is what fans like. We like the Master being evil, and it's like I kind of hate that attitude, because like it kind of leads to this idea like we can't have more than this. Like we can't try to be something more, which I really do not like. It makes me feel like all the people who like dismiss sci-fi and stuff as just being like dumb shit for nerds. It makes me feel like they're right, and I don't like doing that. Yeah, but I will say this about Chibnall. While I accused him of playing it safe in Series 11, and I stick by that, if you watch some of his work elsewhere, you see that, while not always good, he can be pretty crazy. Like, if you've watched his 2 seasons of Torchwood, and like some of the stuff they throw in, and like especially in the finale of season 1, it's terrible. It's a terrible finale, but it's just so insane. It's like, how did the guy who wrote this write season 11? It's like, whereas like, oh, we have a guy who can time travel at will. No, we're not explaining how he can do that. He just can. And he works with this giant demon thing that lives beneath the rift that might be related to the beast from Doctor Who season 2, but we're not going to explain it. It just walks about killing people. Oh, now it's dead now because it drank too much from Jack. We are not explaining any of this. It just kind of happens. That is... I feel like those kind of instincts he's maybe regaining from the fact that he's trying to have fun with this season, like judging from like the trailers and from this episode. But I'm still holding off judgment until Monday, where I don't think I'll be able to join you if you're going to have it on Monday, because...
well, we'll be here on Monday. Well, you can always come live from wherever you're hiding in the country.
It's more, I'll be in the Coromandel, so...
Ooh, self-encouraged not be low key at 4G.
Actually, no, wait, it's going to be worse. I get off work at 8, but then I'm going
driving up
straight away to the...
Oh, that's not good, that's not good. Now, one thing we'd like to ask here...
I'll do a pre-tape.
We're wondering, would you consider becoming a admin of 0800 Tardis?
I do not know what that means.
a Facebook page admin on there. You definitely do a lot of Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah, I also have no tech skills whatsoever.
And tech skills. Oh, gee. We'll talk about this off here. You can decide whether you want to sit there and decline. Also, how do we follow you on Twitter?
My handle's at Carrick of the Ords.
Okay, so we'll also sit there and know that. For
Follow me and watch me live tweet my truly disgusting theories about Tintin and Captain Haddock.
And also, if you want to sit there and follow me on, Twitter, I'm Sam at 0800 Tardis, and if you also want to follow me on Instagram, it's Sam the Man with the Plan. So let's wrap this up for the final of this episode of 0800 Tardis live here from Wellington. Thank you for sitting there and joining us. And we'd like to also give thank you to Daniel Attaway, who is our first time doing the producer for the show, and doing that. He'll be following through most of the season, along with myself and Carrick and anyone else who is following it from the 0800 Tardis admin team. So have a good evening, and we'll see you back on Monday next week.